Paul, we're now live on Facebook. Please take it away.
Good afternoon, everybody. I'm Paul Gullickson, Communications Manager for the County of Sonoma, and this is our fire update news briefing for Tuesday, August 25th at 4 p.m. I want to remind everyone that we have a Spanish and ASL interpreters available to help us with this briefing. And if you are invited to sign on to the Spanish language version of this presentation, if that is preferable format for you. We want to thank all of our panelists for being here today, and we want to get right into it with an update. And for that, we're going to go to our CALFIRE Division Chief Ben Nichols, who I believe is up on Chemise Road, just above the fire. Chief.
Thank you for having me this afternoon. So we'll start with how we started the day and where we're going at the end of the day here. So the numbers given this morning, 54,503 acres, 17% contained for the wall bridge. As was indicated, I'm currently out on Chemise Road, and over my shoulder there is a firing operation to tie in the end of Wine Creek Road with Coke Road to the north. So an example of one of the many operations that are going on along the east side of the fire's edge today to connect those dots that we've been talking about the last couple days here. So we've got some dozers, hand crews, and engine companies supporting them to stop the spread of the fire before it gets all the way out to West Dry Creek Road. Crews are making great progress, and the weather is cooperating, so we're cautiously optimistic that we're making headway out here today. Overnight, there was a report of a structure fire out on Jackson Resort Road that was not founded. It was a finger of the main fire that had crept its way to those structures out there. So we're currently pushing dozers from Mount Jackson Resort Road down towards Sweetwater Springs to tie in that finger so that it doesn't have the opportunity to run down to Hacienda. We're currently working dozers up in the Las Lomas area and above the Cedars. For those that are familiar with that, out in the King Ridge Road, Sewell Road area, that's the last large portion of open line that we've got to button up in the open country. We've got a lot of work left to do, obviously, here on the east side and south side, but that's what we've got going out on that neck of the woods. Armstrong Woods, I'm sure that you heard last night, that the fire had made it down to the valley floor into the grove proper. I'm happy to report that it was a very low intensity backing fire that Congressman Thompson got to see with me yesterday afternoon. We rallied the fire engines that were in the park there protecting structures after they had successfully protected those, and put a hose lay in around the base of the slope next to the Colonel Armstrong tree to keep the fire from damaging the most significant tree in the park. Weather today is remaining the same that we've seen the last couple days, and has continued to be forecasted for southwest winds continuing over the fire area for the next couple of days. So that's good news for us, because that lets us build on the line that we've got and use the constant weather pattern in our favor to fight this fire. So crews are making good headway today. A lot of hard work going on out here, a lot of hard work left to do, but we're pushing one step at a time. Thank you.
Thank you, Chief. We do have some questions from the media that if you'll hold on, I want to remind our media partners to raise your hand when you have a question. And we also have those who are following on Facebook Live are invited to leave questions in the comments section, and we'll try to get to those as well. So for now, let's go to our Director of Emergency Management and for Sonoma County, Chris Godley. Chris?
Good afternoon, everyone. Chris Godley here at the Emergency Operations Center. Very briefly, in support of the population affected by the fire, today, as will be briefed by the Sheriff's Department, there was a significant reduction in the area subject to emergency warnings and orders. At this time, that has been communicated with our residents, and an updated map is available at socoemergency.org. At this time, we have 5,000 residents approximately still subject to an evacuation order. and we only have about 400 or so that are subject to an evacuation warning. So a reduction by about 85% today of those numbers of populations impacted. We are looking at supporting that reentry by operating 3 reentry stations today. All are up and running between the hours of 10 a.m. and 7 p.m. located in near Bodega, the town of Bodega, Healdsburg, and in Sebastopol. And the goal there is to be able to provide residents returning to the area information about how to do so safely, what to check for when they get to their house. And for those that feel they may have been impacted by the fire itself, and the fire may have been on their property, for providing the availability of personal protective equipment so that individuals can make sure that they have what they need to go out onto their property and do so safely. We're also looking at the requesting additional support as we shift into recovery for areas like debris. We're discussing how we might be able to support homeowners in that area with addressing those that may have lost structures on their property, as well as, of course, really addressing the need for our watershed. We have requested a watershed emergency response team support from the state of California and the federal government in order to ensure that we can properly assess and address the challenges that this fire may have posed to the watershed, especially around Lake Sonoma and the entire system that provides water to 650,000 Northern California residents. That completes my initial notes. Thank you.
Thank you, Chris. We'll now go to Sergeant Juan Valencia of the Sonoma County Sheriff's Office to give us an update on our evacuations. Sergeant?
Yes, hello, thanks for having me. Just where we are focusing right now on repopulation and reentry out in the county. So today we lifted a bunch of evacuation or downgraded and lifted some evacuation orders. Dry Creek Valley, south of the Russian River, Cazadero area and the Sonoma coast. Most areas under evacuation order are in the burn area. The thing is, like the county said, is they have checkpoints there for people to go and check in and get safety equipment. The number one priority is keeping the community safe. We are continuously working with CALFIRE. Also a big shout out to the utility companies for making the areas safe that have been impacted by the fire. They have a hard job and they're in there working in collaboration with CALFIRE and the Sheriff's Office to making sure that we're able to get people back into their homes safely. We also want to let you guys know that the SoCo emergency website, but also the Sonoma County Sheriff's Office social media platforms, Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram for information. We still continue to have outside agency assist, the San Francisco Police Department and the San Francisco Sheriff's Office assisting in the area, patrolling. And as of today, we've only arrested one person for trying to enter evacuation zone. Right now, the biggest thing is people are anxious. People want to get back into their houses. Some people are not going to have houses to return back to. So it's important that we check in with those people, their friends, family members, just check in on them, make sure that they have what's required and what they need to get through this process. We have a lot of people working behind the scenes just to make sure that everybody is safe. We're keeping the community safe. And we just ask for your patience. Also, please do not fly drones in the fire area. We had one reported incident in the area of Guerneville area. It interferes with strike with aircraft. So we just want to keep obviously the pilots safe so they could do their job. So I'm sure it's interesting to try to get a perspective of what's been burned, but you're not doing us any justice or any favors by doing that. So just that's it. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Sergeant. We have a number of our legislators with us today, and I want to go to them. I want to be sensitive to their time. So Congressman Mike Thompson, thank you very much for being here today. Do you have some words for us?
Well, Paul, thank you very much. First, thanks to everybody who's doing a great job. First and foremost, our first responders who are putting it all on the line to make sure that we are safe. But all the second responders as well. You guys are just fabulous, and you do great work. It's a great team. I appreciate working with you. I'll just mention. Is Jared on the call?
Not today. I think he's gonna, yeah.
Okay. Well, I'll just mention that I think you probably know that we were successful in getting the National Disaster Declaration signed. And Jared's been a great partner, and we've been working together to push all of these things. This is good news for everybody who's affected by the fire. I'll just quickly review what it does. Individuals are eligible for up to $35,000 in grants to rebuild or repair their property, for temporary housing, for counseling, for emergency unemployment, or for any legal services. And if individuals want to apply, they can go to www.disasterassistance.gov, or they can call 1-800-621-3362. And I would just let folks know that it's important that they do that as soon as they can. This declaration is important also for state and local government and tribal governments. There's money available on a 75-25% share to rebuild the infrastructure or repair infrastructure that was damaged by the fire. I have legislation to up that to 90% eligible from the feds. It's incredibly important, especially now that we get this enhanced funding. As everyone, I think, is painfully aware, COVID has really taken a toll on our state and local government coffers. And so, and with the Senate not acting on the House bill, the HEROES Act, that money isn't coming in to help state and local governments. So it's even more important to do the 90-10 ratio now than before. This also makes folks eligible for SBA loans, and businesses and nonprofits are eligible for up to $2 million in SBA loans. That money can be used to repair or replace any damaged real estate, machinery, equipment, inventory, all the things that are important for our nonprofits to deliver and our businesses to prosper. And individuals are also eligible for up to $40,000 in SBA loans. And anyone who is interested in that can go to disasterloanassistance.sba.gov. And they can apply for that. And if anybody needs any help with this or any more information, they can call my office. They can go online to my website and get a fire brochure, that fire document that I've put together, started in one of our last fires. But it just allows people, it gives people a little bit of help in navigating the bureaucracy. So please contact my office if I can be of any help at all. Again, thank you all.
Thank you, Congressman. You've indeed, unfortunately, become quite a veteran at this in your district, and your expertise and swift action are really appreciated. So thank you. Speaking of another veteran at this, let's go to State Senator Mike McGuire. Senator.
Thank you so much, Mr. Golks and Congressman Thompson. Good afternoon. Assemblywoman McGuire-Curry, good afternoon to the Board of Supervisors, and of course, Chief Nichols and all who are involved from both state, local, federal partners. We are so grateful for your work. And if we take a look at perspective of where we were at last week to where we're at now, we're starting to see positive change. And that is because of the hard work, the backbreaking work of local firefighters and CALFIRE coming in to be able to assist our communities. Just want to say thank you. And I also think for the first time on this incident, Mother Nature is finally a friend with the fog coming in this morning, as well as cooler temps. But look, we're not out of the woods yet. We know that you should anticipate having firefighters continue to be on scene of this incident for at least another 2 weeks, continue to mop up and be able to button this fire up. Do want to let you know that resources are going to continue to flow into Sonoma County and the greater complex region between Lake, Sonoma, and Napa counties. We anticipate arrival of additional 250 member of the National Guard coming into these complex fires here either tomorrow or Thursday. They'll be instrumental in cutting line and being able to assist on the back end with additional logistics. And this fire continues to be number one in resources for the entire unit, which is absolutely critical that we continue to see resources come in. As fires diminish in other parts of the state, we continue to see both mutual aid from the state mutual aid system, as well as out-of-state resources coming in to assist us on the Walbridge fire, as well as up on the Hennessy fire, as that fire is continuing to burn into Lake County. There's some impressive backfire operations that are happening in Lake County today to be able to assist with keeping it out of southern Lake County. I just want to let you know that working with Assemblywoman McGuire Curry and of course Congressman Thompson, the state of California is starting to ramp up on all issues of coordination on the cleanup. And this is going to be critical as we move forward here in the next few weeks to several months. We are going to be lockstep with the County of Sonoma, meeting their every need when it comes to any cleanup of communities, neighborhoods, or individual home sites. And obviously we'll be preparing a strategy to announce here in the coming weeks. But the State Office of Emergency Services will be active and engaged here for the months to come, as well as the Department of Insurance. And that's the last thing I'd like to be able to add on today. If you lost a home, and we are so sorry if you did lose your home, and it's incredibly emotional and overwhelming, to please report your loss to your insurance company immediately. It's critical. And to be able to begin the process of cataloging all that you may have lost. It's going to be critical for your long-term needs with your insurance company. And if you need any assistance, obviously, Assemblywoman McGuire Curry's office or our office will be there with you every step of the way. Thank you so much, Mr. Golgson. And again, to the Board of Supervisors of Congressman Thompson, Assemblywoman McGuire Curry, thank you for the partnership.
Thank you, Senator. And yes, we want to welcome Assembly Member Cecilia Aguiar Curry, whose district is battling these fires on many fronts. Assembly Member, thank you for being here.
You're very welcome. It's an honor to be here. Again, thank you for all of you being here. Supervisors, it's so nice to see you again. And Paul, thanks for putting together. Everyone's doing a great job, and I'm just going to do ditto what Congressman Thompson as well as Senator McGuire said. But I do want to just bring up something that we've noticed in my district offices is that there is a lot of traffic on social media requesting funds, money, and gift cards to be sent out. And I just want to make sure people are very careful where they're sending money. I'm sure that the county will have some directions on their social media page of good nonprofits to work with. But we are seeing a lot of GoFundMe pages and money going out, and we just want to make sure that the money's getting to the people that actually need that. So my comments today are like, be vigilant, make sure you know what things are going on around you. And lastly, remember we're still in a pandemic. And remember the masks, the hand washing, social distancing, your to-go bag, and make sure you video inside your house to make sure that if you are unfortunate enough and the fires are still coming your way, that you are taken care of. So again, thank you so much. We have lots to do, and we haven't even touched recovery yet, but let's just get everybody safe and get the fires out, and we'll go to the next step. Thank you so much for including me today.
Thank you, Assembly Member. We appreciate all your efforts. We'd like to, for a local perspective, please, Supervisor Linda Hopkins, do you have some thoughts for us?
Yeah, I just want to acknowledge that what has been accomplished by our firefighters, both CALFIRE, local firefighters, is truly heroic. With limited resources and an unprecedented amount of acreage across the state on fire at the same time, they have made extremely bold stands at some of our narrow winding roads in West County, saved homes and barns, and really accomplished an amazing amount of work with very limited resources. And yet I also want to remind everyone that even as repopulation moves forward, this fire is not yet out. And because of the rugged and remote nature of the terrain, it's extremely difficult to establish containment, especially on the south end of the fire, where we have extremely rugged and steep topography, as well as quite a bit of timber. So I have a few messages to 3 different groups of folks. Number 1, to those residents who were able to come home today, welcome home. I can't wait to see you in the line at Spears Market in Forestville or out socially distanced on the West County Trail. I'm sure it will be wonderful to sleep in your bed tonight. To those, unfortunately, who are still under mandatory evacuation orders, stay strong and let us know if you need anything. Truly, we are here working for you. We want to make sure that you have a safe and appropriate place to stay during the duration of your evacuation. And then finally, to those who might be considering visiting Sonoma County right now, I want to remind any potential visitors that we are still in the midst of a major fire disaster in West County in particular. And I would also like to acknowledge that a lot of our local fire agencies are actually also our EMS responders. So calls, responding to increased visitors, which does create an increased demand for calls for service, does actually negatively impact the resources that we would have for the front line of the fire. So we love you visitors in West County. We know that you support our local businesses, but for now, it is not the time to visit. Please do wait until all of the mandatory evacuation orders are lifted. We will welcome you with open arms then, and I know that our small businesses will appreciate the support. But in the meantime, consider supporting us virtually. Donate to West County Community Services, Stewards of the Coast and Redwoods, Russian River Alliance. There are a lot of opportunities to support the community if you have grown to love the lower Russian River and the coast. But for now, we would really ask that you stay away in order to preserve our local firefighting resources for the critical ongoing work of the fire. Thank you all so much for your work, all of the firefighters, all of the first responders and second responders.
Thank you, Supervisor. That is indeed a very important message to get out. This is not the weekend to be visiting the lower Russian River, and we appreciate you reminding people of that. Is Supervisor James Gore with us? Okay, he may be joining us a little later, or are any of our supervisors with us? I can't tell.
Yeah, I'm here.
Oh,
Paul.
so there you go. Supervisor Zane, thank you.
Yeah. Just a couple of updates. We've had a number of homeless people who, of course, were living out in the river areas that got evacuated, that are in our evacuation sites, mainly at the fairgrounds. And I just wanted to assure people that the opportunity that is presented there is that our team, our Health and Human Service team, will have an opportunity to try and get people rehoused. And we will not be closing that evacuation center until everybody has had an opportunity to get rehoused. And that is not in congregate housing such as Sam Jones Hall, but in transitional housing where they can have their privacy as well. People continue to say to me that they are feeling a lot of anxiety, a lot of stress symptoms, not sleeping, the smoke, the sirens, the pandemic. It's natural that we all feel anxious right now, but if you need to talk to somebody, there is that help. It's called the Mental Health Warm Line. It goes 7 days a week from 10 to 7 in the evening. You will get a live therapist. We have Spanish-speaking therapists as well, and can do other translations. And it's 565-2652, 565-2652. And then lastly, we talk a lot about Sonoma Strong, but it needs to be said that being strong is also admitting how much we need one another. If there's anything these disasters have shown us here in Sonoma County, is that we can't do anything without one another. We are interdependent. So don't fail to reach out to people and reach out to your neighbors, especially and your loved ones, but to people that you don't know too, that may really need just that kindness right now, because we could all use a lot more kindness. And again, I want to thank my all the help that we get from the state and the federal government, Mike Thompson and Mike McGuire and Assembly Member Aguilar Curry. Thank you so much. You guys have been just incredible. And especially want to shout out for Supervisor Linda Hopkins and Supervisor Gore. They have just been incredible in terms of stepping up and really making sure to take care of those people that live in their districts. So again, thank you to all, and don't forget to use those helplines. SoCoEmergency.org has tons of information on it. We're always updating it, whether it's children, seniors, mental health services, volunteer opportunities. You're going to find it all there. So go there. Okay, thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Supervisor Zane. Those are important resources. Supervisor Gore has indeed joined us. Supervisor, you have some thoughts for us?
Yeah, just that, you know, I know there's a lot of people who are frustrated that they're not able to get back into some of their areas, you know, specifically Mill Creek, Sweetwater Springs, you know, up on Chemise Road and Big Ridge, you know, a lot of the other area, the lowlands of Dry Creek, people have been out of for a long time. Kind of similar to Supervisor Hopkins and what she's been communicating. I know it's tough, but there's a lot of down trees. There's a lot of hazards up there that the utilities are going to be working on. They're going to have to be able to do a lot of tree work and move things around. So at the same time, we continue to look at and analyzing the impacts on our water supply. Up on Lake Sonoma a little bit more today with some of our scientists, kind of looking at not only the impact of the black soot from the fire getting into our water supply, but also the fire retardant and how we, what kind of nutrients. And from our understanding, there's kind of 4 or 5 different types of fire retardant that, you know, different chemical basis that we're gonna have to take a look at, and trying to partner with the Army Corps engineers on how we mitigate that, how we get, you know, the right kind of protections in place so that stuff doesn't get down into Lake Sonoma and further into the water system. But, you know, on the people side of things, I know there's a lot of folks, once again, who are frustrated and tired, and we've been through this before. It's very difficult to get back into the high hazard areas. So it'll take a little bit, but we appreciate your patience and be in touch with us. Thank you.
Thank you, Supervisor. Okay, we're going to go to some questions now from our media partners and from the public. Remind people they can leave questions on our Facebook Live comments. One question we've been getting concerns the activation of our local assistance centers. As Congressman Thompson mentioned, it's important to act quickly to get this assistance. And maybe I'll go to Chris Godley. Chris, do you have an update on those activations?
Absolutely. The county's aggressively pursuing establishing 2 locations because we realize it's quite a geography here. One on the southern edge of the fire in the town of Guerneville, and one on the eastern in the town of. We're pursuing both sites, and we're trying to get those open as soon as possible, but especially by Friday, we're really targeting. I will share with you, it's been a bit more of a challenge this time around. Although we're well versed in this experience and we know what to do, we're now really working hard to ensure we can integrate all the COVID protections necessary to make this a safe experience for both our residents and our staff and community organizations that will be working there.
Great, thank you very much. Okay, let's go to a member of the media, Mary Callahan. Mary, are you with us?
Hi, can you hear me?
You're on.
Okay. I understand that we may hear as early as tonight or tomorrow some early count on county by county structure losses. I'm wondering if anybody has any sense whether we are, and I know there's been some confusion about these numbers, whether we have somewhere in the hundreds in Sonoma County, and whether most of those are going to be in the Mill Creek, Sweetwater Springs area, or are there some other areas that we're not familiar with or may not know about yet? Can anyone address that? Maybe Chris or Ben?
So damage inspection teams are out in the field again today, continuing to collect that data. There was just a team that came by here earlier out to the end of Chemise. They are collecting that data and sharing it with our county partners to collect that data and push it into the system. So that information will be available to the public just as soon as possible.
And then to add on to that, we are hoping possibly by tomorrow to have enough sufficient data. We've only got a very small input so far on this system, and it's going to be, I don't even have a ballpark yet, Mary. I got to be quite honest. We're just open for now.
Thank you. Can I ask a follow-up?
Sure, Mary, go ahead.
Ben, can you talk about the meaning of containment lines in terms of, we're looking at 17% containment, I think, for the Wallbridge fire, but the way you address sort of the areas that still need to be buttoned up, it sounds like there's significantly more of the fire that has perimeter line on it. And I'm wondering if you could sort of talk about the difference there and sort of what the meaning of containment lines are and how we should view that in terms of when this thing will be surrounded.
Sure, great question. So those folks that have been looking at the incident map, you'll notice that there's a red, which is the uncontrolled fire perimeter, and then black. The black is where we get that percentage of containment. And that black is line that we are confident will not come out due to flare-ups with inside the line or any ember cast falling outside of the line into the surrounding unburned vegetation. So the uncontrolled line, there's periods of time where they have containment line on them, but it hasn't been sufficiently mopped up yet for us to call that contained. So that's why you see people are asking, there's still an awful lot of uncontrolled fire edge. What are they doing? We're working hard to mop that up. And when that's officially safe to be in that area, then that's going to turn black. And so you're going to watch that work its way around the fire from the lake back into the river. And there may be actually portions, above Guerneville and here in the Dry Creek Valley before we get wrapped up from the heel, just because of that checkerboard of dozer line and now hand line that's being constructed by the few crews that are here. And I believe, as Senator McGuire said, the National Guard crews that are coming in. So we're going to start to see that change and that percentage containment go up. But due to these heavy fuels and still really the lack of fire engines to effectively get in there and mop up this fire, this is going to be a long firefight and a long period of time where there's going to be smoke in the air and firefighter staff on the line.
Thank you so much.
Okay, we'll now go to Will Schmidt of the Press Democrat. Will?
Hi, can you hear me?
We hear you.
Thanks, Paul. I think this question's for Ben or maybe for Chris. Could either of you or both of you walk me through the Mount Jackson communication area, just in terms of why that equipment up there is so valuable, what steps were taken to prevent it or to prevent the fire from reaching it, and then whether the fire, which I understand still burns to the south and to the east of those facilities, continues to pose a threat to that array of communications equipment?
Sure. So Mount Jackson is a repeater location for radio communications that fire agencies use across the county, the sheriff's office, and CALFIRE, as well as many other organizations. So those repeater sites are a critical infrastructure for the county. And if we lost those during the fire, that would create a hole in our radio communications and make it very difficult for us to be able to conduct operations in the field and be able to communicate with our adjoining resources and the dispatch centers that were overall driving the fight. So as the fire got across Sweetwater Springs 4 or 5 days ago, whatever that number is now, we recognized that the vegetation was closer to those towers than we would have liked to have seen. And anybody who's been on the Alert Wildfire cameras has seen the Mount Vaca cameras that both were destroyed in the fire to our east. And so we're very concerned about the same fire event occurring to Mount Jackson. So we tried to get crews and dozers in place in time to push that vegetation away from the tower. However, due to the reflex time and the shortage of those resources, we just couldn't get them there in time. So there was a decision made to conduct a defensive firing operation around the base of that tower to try to consume the fuel around the tower prior to the fire getting to make a run or a wind-driven run towards that tower and ultimately destroying it. So far, the fire has done exactly what our division had planned to do when he ordered that backfire. The concern for us is that the understory has been consumed and that fire continues to burn away from the tower. However, because the canopy of those trees is still intact, that was cured out as the fire burned underneath in that timber understory down the slopes. So our concern is at some point down the slope, there may generate enough heat to get up into the canopies and have a running crown fire back at the top of the mountain due to that steep country that Supervisor Hopkins was talking about. And unfortunately, at that point, the tower would not survive. So we're watching that fire backing down the hillside and keeping our fingers crossed that that does not get up in those trees.
Thank you. Chris, do you have anything to add to that? Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you. So one of the questions we've been asked concerns power in some of the areas where our residents will be returning. Some are asking whether they can expect to have their electricity on when they get home tonight. Chris, do you have an update on that for us?
Yes, and looking at the utility systems that have been impacted, especially regarding power, our most notable outage is really just Dry Creek Valley at this point, which was a preventative safety shutoff by PG&E. They are looking to have power restored in that area by the end of the day. But if you go home today, you should have power in each one of these areas. At this point, we have no reported problems. I think there may be one or two lines that go to a specific residence, but that's kind of par for the course for that larger an area. But right now, no major challenges for power. And for water, we're seeing each water district has no damage in full operations. The only one in question at this point, of course, is Sweetwater Springs, and we're working to have them access their facilities tomorrow as possible.
Great, thank you very much. Let's go to Rafael Vasquez. Rafael?
Thank you. Good afternoon to everybody. The question here is, if we are having such a hard time or had a hard time with gaining control of some of these fires, and we are only in August, what could we expect in October, specifically now that a lot of inmates have been released who used to come over and fight fires for us, and they were released due to COVID-19?
So you're absolutely right. We have a long way to go to get to the end of fire season. But keep in mind that last year, up until the Kincaid, we had a very unexciting fire season that we had not had the ignitions that we historically on average have. So we ask that the public maintains their vigilance and safety when they're out in the wildland, because 99% of our fires here in Sonoma County are caused by humans. So if we're all careful out there and we keep our vehicles well maintained and we're safe operating that outdoor equipment, then hopefully we don't have any more fires than we absolutely have to for the remainder of the fire season. As far as the fire crew strength, you are correct. We have less numbers due to that. However, we're maintaining the most fire crew strength that we can, and we're looking at options to bolster those resources, because hand crews are a vital portion of our wildland firefighting complement.
Thank you. As a follow-up for that, is there any plan, I don't know if the county or the state, is there any plan now that we see so many fires in the state of California for several years now? Are there any plans, any preparations to maybe provide citizens, for lack of a better word, firefighting units that can come and support firefighters during this type of situations? I don't know who wants to take this question.
This is McGuire. I could just chime in here really quickly, just talk about what we're doing, not necessarily on providing citizens units, but where we were at with the budget. So an additional $85 million was invested in CALFIRE this year, despite this economic fallout that we've seen from the coronavirus. Approximately 350 additional seasonal firefighters are going to be brought on with this money, and this is permanent funding for CALFIRE and an increased budget allocation, and an additional approximate 180 to 190 full-time firefighters. This is in addition to approximately 117 firefighters last fiscal year that was brought on along with additional engines. In addition, California is phasing out the 12 helicopters, Vietnam era helicopters that have been the backbone of CAL FIRE's helicopter firefighting fleet, replacing them with 12 Black Hawk night fighting helicopters. We did see one of those new Black Hawks on this blaze here on the Wallbridge fire. And we've struck a deal with the United States Coast Guard. As the Coast Guard transitions 7 C-130s out of their fleet, we're going to transition them into the CAL FIRE fleet. We'll be taking ownership of that first C-130. It's anticipated in 2021. And those 7 C-130s, which will now be the largest within the CAL FIRE fleet, will be strategically placed throughout the state. And these are these giant cargo planes that would be outfitted with a bladder and then dispatched to fires as they come up. Finally, I'll say we also have hired on additional bulldozer teams in last year's budget. But what we know is this. We are facing an era of mega wildland fires. We have to continue to staff up CAL FIRE, and we have to continue to invest in preventative action. That is why we're spending approximately $200 million per year now on forest health and forest management, vegetation management, essentially. This program is being run out of CAL FIRE right now, where local governments and or fire agencies, fire districts, municipal fire departments can also apply to be able to conduct fire management and vegetation management around their communities to be able to advance defensible space. Much more to come. And what we know is that climate change is making these fires even worse, burning hotter and faster. Chief Nichols, I did not want to interrupt you, sir, but just wanted to talk about where we've been and where we need to continue to go. Chief Nichols, I don't know if there's anything else that you wanted to be able to add, sir.
Yeah, just one note that the minimum training for wildland firefighters for CAL FIRE at this point is roughly 6 weeks to get them trained up. So it's one of those things that the days of giving folks a shovel and a McLeod and sending them out on the line, it's just not safe. And so risk versus gain, we don't recommend private citizen brigades just because we could really hurt people in that process.
Thank you.
Here's a question from one of our viewers on Facebook. Jenna is asking about the lower end of West Dry Creek toward the Madrona Manor. She's asking, there are no downed trees in that area. Why is that area not repopulated? Chief Nichols, do you want to address that one?
Sure. So while the crews are making headway in these drainages above West Dry Creek and West Side, there is still the concern with the prevailing southwest winds that we're going to have those afternoon runs like we were having earlier last week. And we don't want people in the way of those if those develop, because they develop suddenly and the fire moves quickly. So until we're buttoned up over here on the east side of the fire, we just can't let people back into the area.
All right, thank you. Let's go to Jeremy Hay from Bay City News Service. Jeremy.
Hello, thank you. Quick question for Congressman Thompson. Congressman, I just wanted to clarify the SBA money that's available. Is that, I just didn't catch it, as grants or loans?
SBA money is loans for both businesses and nonprofits on the one side, and up to $2 million, and on the individual side up to $40,000.
Great, thank you. And a quick follow-up question for Chief Nichols, if I could, Paul?
Sure, go ahead, Jeremy.
Thank you. Ben, I wondered if you could describe some of the factors that have allowed you to make the progress that you have over the last several days, for tactical decisions, weather that did or didn't happen, obviously the incredibly hard work of firefighters. I wondered if you could walk us through some of that.
Sure. So after the last couple of days, if you recall earlier last week, we had some stronger northwest winds that were pushing the fire towards that Sweetwater Springs West Side Road intersection. And so that pushed the fire to the ridge line above Guerneville and up over the top into Armstrong Woods and over the peak there at Mount Jackson, Sweetwater Springs. Once those areas got out of the wind, the fire became a backing fire down into those communities, which has given us time to get crews in front of that and start containing that fire up above the structures. Several days ago, we had a transition to the southwest winds, which now the heel where the fire came from became the most opportune spot for an advance of the fire. And so those areas that had fire right on top of them in Guerneville, Rio Neto, got a reprieve because the wind was basically blowing the fire away from those communities. The work being done back towards Warm Springs Dam, Upper Dry Creek Valley from the beginning of the fire has been continued to be reinforced. And so we haven't had that transition, but had we chased the head of the fire and not constructed any line during those first several days, then when we had the wind shift, we would have had a rude surprise waiting for us with the fire running towards Cloverdale. So because of those lines here in the Upper Dry Creek Valley, we've been able to keep that fire in check. And with the southwest flow, it brought more moisture in the air, so the relative humidity is up. So it's kind of reduced the fire intensity and fire behavior. As you can see over my shoulder, there's no flames coming out of the forest canopy, and it's a white smoke indicating it's not getting as much consumption as a hot, intense fire that in that timber stand behind me would be approximately 200 feet flame lengths with rolling black smoke. So conditions are in our favor, and we're going to maximize them where we've got them.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. We have a question from one of our evacuees. And Chris Godley, you addressed this a little bit, but here's, I'm going to give this anyway. She's from Forestville, and she asked, Christine asked, is the water safe to drink, or should we be drinking bottled water?
At this point, all the water systems indicate that they've been able to maintain pressure and thereby the safety of their water systems. There are no water systems at risk at this point or that have been placed on alert or notice for their customers.
Great, thank you. I'm sure that's assurance to a number of people. Mary Callahan, Mary, you have a follow-up?
Sorry, Paul, let me just add.
Yes.
Those, however, that depend on wells, it's important to note that we return to these areas. They may have lost power. They may be damaged to the structures and the lines that feed the water to their own homes. And to maintain their own water systems, I certainly recommend that they get those implemented and checked if they think there's any risk at all.
Chris, you were garbled there for a little bit. Would you mind repeating your answer on that? I think that's an important point.
Absolutely. I spoke to the larger water systems, but if people live on their own property with their own well system, they need to make sure that that's intact because they've lost power. There may be damage to the piping. We recommend that if necessary, or if there's doubt, just have it inspected.
Thank you very much for clarifying that. Mary Callahan.
Thanks. I should probably know this just from looking at the map, but how many of the areas that had evacuation orders lifted today actually went directly from a mandatory order to no notice at all?
I'm sorry, I thought I was going to get that from the sheriff's office, but at this time, I have to do a head count. It looks to be about 14. Let me see if I can get additional information in just a moment.
It seemed to me that a lot of those areas south of the Russian River were under mandatory order. Linda, do you know? Directly under Guerneville and just south of the river. They had been under mandatory order yesterday.
Yeah, yes, they were mandatory yesterday. The only ones that had shifted were the areas around Forestville that had gone from mandatory to advisory.
Thank you.
Okay, and Mary, we'll work with you getting a specific answer to your question. So
thanks so much.
Yeah. Okay, we're going to wrap it up at this point. We want to thank everybody for being here. All those who asked questions. These are important discussions. We want to remind you that we will be back Again, at 4 o'clock tomorrow for an update. We are just the one news briefing each day. So please join us again at 4 o'clock tomorrow. Thank you all.
Thank you.